Hello, this is Thomas Sheltra for Moreland University, Module 36, Unit 1, Activity 1, and today we're going to be looking at international laws regarding China's education system and also how it relates to the school that I work at, which is a international and bilingual school in Wuhan. And today we're going to be looking at those laws, school operations as it relates to my school, human resources laws, how we hire teachers, and termination and resignation and retention. Then we're going to look at sensitive areas to avoid in the classroom, and then also health and safety considerations and operational safety. As you can see in China, education is compulsory from grades 1 through 9. After grade 9, students can go on to different vocational schools or other types of occupational centers, and they do not have to complete the Gaokao. However, for the most part, students are going to continue on grades 10 through 12, and they're going to be studying for the Gaokao, which is going to be the major university admission test that they take. You can also see that the Chinese national curriculum is something that is mandatory through grade 9, and that is also going to be important for the status of our school, where students in the bilingual side will have to complete that in grade 9. And therefore, whether you're a bilingual student or an international student at our school, essentially you're going to be on two different types of academic tracks up until grade 9. And then for bilingual students after grade 9, they can study the same type of curriculum as international students. Another thing that's very interesting that I found is that post-COVID, there's been a lot of laws that have changed the types of third-party systems that are out there for students as far as evening study, extra classes, and tutoring, and trying to mitigate those unlicensed teachers. And then also more of a push for school-based learning and supports rather than those third-party systems. As you can see here, we have a Venn diagram for the public education system in China, and then also private, bilingual, and international schools, and then sort of an overlap. And what I found that was very interesting is that generally speaking, in regards of where private, bilingual, and international schools have the most autonomy, is going to be within the curriculum. For all other aspects regarding health and safety, human resources, hiring and firing of teachers, is going to have to follow the compliance of the Chinese laws. So when we look at who can teach in our school and who we can hire, for the most part, a lot of the teachers are going to come from the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Ireland, and South Africa. It is just easier, regardless of where you are in China, to get the work authorization and the Z visa for these teachers to come over that then can turn into work permits. However, the one thing I would say is that if you are in a major city like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, those schools tend to have a little more latitude depending on their relationships with the governments. The only reason why that I know that is because, and again, this is pre-COVID, is that we've had teachers from Cameroon, India, Serbia, which are not native English-speaking countries. However, because we were living in Shanghai and working there at the time, many of my colleagues were coming from these non-native English-speaking countries. Generally, if we're in smaller cities, they're going to have something like a master's or a PhD, something that specializes them in that subject. So therefore, it's a little harder to get non-native English speakers to work at schools. Another thing that is sort of a post-COVID is that there's more of an emphasis now on teachers that have recognized teaching licenses or can get that. Again, that's going to depend on the school and where you are living. In China, regarding human resources matters, there are no teacher unions. There are no collective bargaining agreements between teachers and human resources with the schools. Everything is based on the school specifics. And therefore, if you're living, where I am in Wuhan, every school is going to have a different salary scale and benefit package that is going to vary depending on the school that you work at. Again, this is the difference between a private bilingual and a public school. And then also, when it comes to probation and termination, probation is usually 90 days. And then any sort of termination or resignation between the school or the faculty member usually requires a 30-day notice. Obviously, in every contract, there's going to be termination clauses or a force majeure. But that, again, is going to depend on the school, and it is going to depend on where you are. However, schools must follow Chinese labor contract laws. So therefore, you cannot have any sort of collective bargaining between a group of teachers in a union. It's going to be individualized per teacher that you hire. One of the things, again, when we look at subject teaching in areas, so in China, again, for our bilingual, students must complete the Chinese national curriculum up until grade 9, and then after grade 9, even if they're a bilingual student, they're allowed to take classes just as if they were in the international school for their AP components. We must avoid either international or bilingual, the 3 Ts, that is Tiananmen, Tibet, and Taiwan. That is going to have implications in the reading materials that we have or even in the maps that we put up in our classroom. However, again, just like I would say, enforcement of all of these laws and regulations are going to be different depending on where you live. Our school has to maintain requirements as far as like the safety in the for our school, making sure that we have fire drills, elevator safety, health procedures as far as like temperature regulation in the classrooms and overall emergency readiness. We have inspections, people making sure that the school is maintained properly. Health and safety regulations. So we have food controls. We do have separate faculty and student eating areas. We have CCTV cameras everywhere on campus and in the classroom. This is to make sure that students are in a safe learning environment. And then whenever there are any sort of sports or extracurricular activities where students are off campus, all faculty members who take students off campus must be CPR certified. And for sports, we must have physical and medical clearance for student athletes and also nurses that travel. And as far as leadership implications, so when we look at all of these different factors, we need to make sure that leaders have the ability to create a safe learning environment for the students and for the faculty members who are going to be teaching and learning at the school, and also building parent trust. However, a leader must be adaptable and fluid to different situations, because at the end of the day, at least for our school, we are an AP school, and we must make sure that students are prepared to take those exams, be successful in those exams, and go to really great universities. So when it comes to who can teach and the contracts, we must be able to hire and maintain through retention practices, getting the best teachers possible, specifically ones who are licensed and experienced in AP. We need to make sure, or I want to make sure, that as a leader that are with people who are coming to this school, that they are culturally aware and sensitive to the situation of the students we're teaching, and that they have different belief systems than many of us that are coming into the situation, but we need to be empathetic to those situations. And also we need to make sure that the facilities are safe for the students and the faculty members. Here are my references, and thank you very much for your time.